Okay, so a while back, a couple months ago, I saw a video. It was titled something along the lines of 11 things that atheists wish Christians knew about them. Um, and it was a good video. It was well made. Guy made a lot of good points. A lot of things that he had run into, Christians did, that that bothered him because they didn't make sense. Um, and some of which included using quoting the Bible doesn't work like a Jedi mind trick was one of the things he said. Um, and it was very informative, very respectful. It was a very good video. Actually, the only thing, and it wasn't, and no part of the video was it saying, atheists are right, Christians are wrong. He was just simply saying, these assumptions you make about atheists are wrong. And I didn't take issue with any of it except for one statement. It was like the first or second thing he said was that atheists have morals. Um, and I don't necessarily disagree with that. Atheists can have morals, but it doesn't make sense for them to. Why do you have morals? Where do they come from? I have had that discussion with several atheists. I have never yet been able to find an atheist that could give me a satisfying answer to the question of, if you really have morals, where do they come from? Why do you have them? Now, I have gotten answers. I have gotten very vivid, detailed answers that made rational sense, but they simply weren't what Christians understand morality to be. In fact, I got in a discussion with a man over that video. He had posted the video, and I responded to it. And he said, after a lot of discussion was handwritten, and it took us probably a couple hours. Well, keyboard written. But anyway, it probably took us a couple hours to get through it. But anyway, he basically said, and this is the consistent answer I usually get, or I hear of other people getting as well. I hear a lot of people say they get this answer too. So apparently it's not just me that hears this. But it's that morality is developed by society. Society determines what's moral. Well, that's not morality. That's social adaptation. And a society where it is moral to slay all of your brothers and sisters so that you can be the one who continues the family line, that is not just a moral thing, it is the expected thing. I don't think that's moral. The Christian idea of of morals would be to stand up and say, no, I won't do that in spite of consequences. Whereas social adaptation says that, I'm going to do this because society says it's right. The biggest problem with that, that's not an argument I'm putting in his mouth. That is what is said to me consistently when I ask them where their morals come from. It's almost always they come from society, or they come from me. Well, if that's the case, then who are you to decide what's right and wrong for someone else? If your morals come from you, and they come from inside of you, then you are no one to say you're just a a freaking petri dish accident like the rest of us. You don't get to tell me what's moral. A lot of people use that arguments on Christian. You don't get to tell me what's immoral. You don't get to tell me, quit pushing your morality on me. Well, a lot of Christians want to say to that, quit pushing your immorality on us. Our morals are very strict and very rigid because we know where they come from. We know what they say. An atheist, if your morals come from inside you, they don't really come from anywhere. You can make them up based on what makes you feel good. And they don't carry any weight, any authority. You do whatever you want to, and that's great. But who are you to say that I can't murder? Who are you to say that I can't steal? That I can't I can't just cut off people's arms and legs willy-nilly because I'm bored. Who are you to tell me I can't do these things? Whereas a Christian says, I'm nobody. I can't tell you anything. God said this. All I'm doing is passing the message. I'm just relaying what's written in the book. This isn't me. I don't hate you. I don't, I don't, I'm just saying this is what my morals say. This is where they come from. This is what they are. And, an atheist can easily say, hey, look, you're just passing the buck to an arbitrary authority figure that means nothing to me. By saying your morals come from inside you, you're passing the buck to an arbitrary authority figure that means nothing to me. So their own logic breaks down their own argument. Their second argument is that they comes from society. Society, determines what's right and wrong. Well, if society determines that rape's okay and slavery's okay, which in a lot of societies in the past, those things were okay. And probably in some third world cultures and things like that, I wouldn't be surprised if rape and, like that kind of thing is actually a thing. So I know cannibalism is a thing for a lot of tribal, societies, and all arbitrary wars to please the gods, and if morality is determined by society, literally anything can be moral as long as it's accepted by a powerful majority or even a powerful minority. If the minority has that much force and power over the will of the people, then they can just arbitrarily choose what's right and wrong. Women being third-class citizens was slavery, all of those things. That's social adaptation. It's not morality. Morality is when you stand up to those kind of things. Martin Luther King had morals. What he did not do for himself. He did because it was right. William Wilberforce, who was one of the key people for ending slavery in the UK, gave up 53 years, dedicated 53 years of his life to ending slavery. He wasn't even a slave. No one in his family was slaves. The dude was European. He was white as a sheet, and a member of Parliament. A guy, he wasn't Martin Luther King. He didn't have a reason to do those things. He wasn't living under oppression like Martin Luther King was. He wasn't, a second-class citizen like Martin Luther King was. There was no reason for him to do what he did. That's morality. When the only reason is because you believe it's right. And he believed it was right because of his beliefs in the Bible and Christianity. William Wilberforce. Same with Martin Luther King. Martin Luther King didn't want to be oppressed. It was, so the two men fighting for very, very similar goal. Slavery was kind of gone by the time Martin Luther King came around. You could argue that black people were still slaves by that time, just different kind of slavery. So, but they were pretty much fighting for the same thing, equality between racial groups, and William Wilberforce, he had no reason to do it, no logical, rational reason outside of because it was right, and his morality very clearly came from a specific place. It wasn't determined by society. In fact, when he first started fighting against it in 1880, I believe, it was the thing. It was normal. It was the accepted morality of society. It was okay. They were an inferior people. Well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly moral. They're inferior. Why not treat an inferior man as though he's inferior? So, the fact that he stood up and was like, this is wrong, that's morality. And if you're standing up and you're doing that, and you don't have a belief in a source for that right and wrong, like why are you doing it? I cannot get a satisfactory answer from an atheist as to why should you be moral. There's no reason to. If you really think about it, there's no point other than living in society. Like morality is the most useless thing in the world. Social adaptability is extremely useful because if people are sheep and you don't want to piss off the huge majority of sheep because you don't want to get drugged to the streets and shot, yeah, naturally you're going to do that. It's smart. But that's not morality. It's social adaptability. So that was the only real issue I took with that video. It's because saying you have a morality isn't the same as having one. They're two different things. They feel like the same thing because they kind of have the same result. But to the Christian, where the result comes from matters. The means matter as much as the ends. And so to us, they're two very different things. So anyway, that's pretty much it. And I just wanted to clarify that because that seems to be a misconception atheists have about Christians. Is that we all have these same moral codes and they come from the same places. No, they don't. Society can pull morals from anywhere. They could pull them from the Bible, or they can pull them from popular opinion, which is what they do pretty much today. Morals are determined by popular opinion. Popular opinion's driven pretty effectively by media, television, newspapers, that kind of thing, news. Because you drive popular opinion in a certain way, then which ones sell ads, and so you give more of that, and so it influences people's opinion more because that's their source for their opinions. There's a lot of people that don't delve into this stuff. They listen to CNN and they take it for what they're like. Oh, hey, well, I guess that's right. Or they listen to Fox News and they're like, well, I mean, obviously this Democrat's bad because of blah blah blah. Well, I mean, you're only getting one side of the picture, which is how it works. So society, especially in an age of mass media, or even before mass media, when it's just printed newspaper, when your only source of information is the biggest influencer of societies, then it's easy to influence the morality of society. It takes a long time because you have to get the next generation. It takes at least a generation. It took a generation to get past the to get past the the strict ideas of celibacy and abstinence. It took at least a generation to get past that. It took a generation to get past the ideas of racial inequality. It took a generation. It takes at least a generation to get past these things. But as long as you bombard people with it, then eventually you're gonna get past it. And you just have to have people in that realm that are capable of that kind of influence. So anyway, real morality, as Christians understand it, is a totally different playing field than the idea of morality from the viewpoint of social adaptation or some kind of inner feel-goodness. It's a whole nother paradigm.